The Galactic Council had made their decision. After months of deliberation, they concluded that humans were too dangerous, too unpredictable to be allowed free passage through civilized space. The species that had somehow survived on a death world, that had domesticated wolves and made friends with apex predators, needed to be taught a lesson about fear. Commander Zixthor of the Krellian Dominion stood before the containment unit, his 4 eyes gleaming with satisfaction. Inside the reinforced chamber, a Varathian Shadestalker cub paced restlessly. Even at 3 months old, the creature was formidable. Razor-sharp claws that could slice through durasteel, fangs dripping with paralyzing venom, and an intelligence that rivaled most sentient species. On its homeworld of Varathia Prime, adult Shadestalkers were the undisputed apex predators, feared by every creature that drew breath. The humans call themselves brave, Zixthor hissed to his second-in-command. Let us see how brave they are when they face true terror. The human research vessel Wanderer's Hope hung in orbit around the neutral station, unaware of the plot unfolding below. Aboard the ship, xenobiologist Dr. Elsa Khoury was reviewing her notes on Krellian culture, preparing for the upcoming diplomatic exchange. Beside her, security officer Leo Chen cleaned his standard-issue plasma pistol, though he doubted he'd need it. The galaxy had been at peace for decades. You think they'll actually show us their genetic archives? Leo asked, his dark eyes reflecting genuine curiosity rather than suspicion. Elsa smiled, pushing a strand of brown hair behind her ear. The Krellians are proud of their biological databases. If we play nice, they might even share some samples. They should have known better. The invitation to the station's biodome came within hours. It was presented as a gesture of goodwill, a chance to see some of the galaxy's most exotic creatures. Elsa accepted eagerly, her scientific curiosity overriding any sense of caution. Leo accompanied her as was protocol, though he felt oddly uneasy about the whole arrangement. The biodome was magnificent, a sprawling ecosystem beneath a transparent dome that showcased a dozen different alien environments. Krellian scientists guided them through the exhibits, their translator devices converting their hissing speech into flat, emotionless English. Then they reached the final chamber. "We have saved the best for last," Zixthor announced, his mandibles clicking with what Elsa had learned to recognize as amusement. A creature from Varathia Prime. Perhaps you have heard of it. The lights in the chamber blazed to life, revealing the Shadestalker cub. It was roughly the size of a large dog, covered in midnight black scales that seemed to absorb light. Its eyes glowed an eerie crimson, and when it opened its mouth, rows of serrated teeth glistened with venom. The Krellian scientists stepped back, waiting for the screams, the panic, the desperate retreat that would prove once and for all that humans were just another soft species that had gotten lucky. Instead, Elsa gasped, not in fear but in wonder. "Oh my God," she whispered, pressing closer to the transparent barrier. "Leo, look at it. It's magnificent." The cub had frozen, its predatory instincts detecting the new presence. It growled, a sound that made the Krellian's scales ripple with instinctive dread. The venom sacs in its jaw visibly swelled. Leo moved to position himself between Elsa and the barrier, his hand hovering near his weapon. But he too was staring at the creature with an expression that Zixthor couldn't quite parse. "Dr. Khoury," the Krellian commander said slowly, "that creature is one of the most dangerous predators in known space. Even as a juvenile, it has killed 3 handlers." "It's scared," Elsa said simply, her eyes never leaving the cub. "Look at its posture. The tail tucked, the ears back, well, what passes for ears. It's terrified." "Terrified?" Zixthor's translator barely managed to convey his disbelief. "It is a Shadestalker." "It's a baby," Leo added, his tactical assessment kicking in. Separated from its mother, trapped in an artificial environment surrounded by species it doesn't recognize. Hell, I'd be aggressive too. Elsa was already moving toward the chamber entrance. "We need to socialize it properly. Has anyone tried non-threatening approach protocols?" The Krellians exchanged confused looks. Non-threatening? Toward a Shadestalker? Against every regulation and safety protocol, Elsa convinced the station commander to allow her into the chamber. Leo insisted on accompanying her, though he kept his weapon holstered, a show of trust that Elsa appreciated more than she could express. The cub backed into a corner as they entered, its growl intensifying. The Krellians watched from behind reinforced glass, certain they were about to witness a gruesome death that would finally put humanity in its place. Elsa knelt down slowly, making herself smaller, less threatening. She extended one hand, palm up, and began to speak in a soft, soothing voice. "Hey there, beautiful. Nobody's going to hurt you. I know you're scared. I know this is all wrong for you." The cub's growl faltered, its glowing eyes fixed on Elsa's face, and something ancient and instinctive in its brain recognized something it had never encountered before: genuine care from a potential threat. Leo knelt beside Elsa, his movements equally slow and deliberate. "You're doing great, little one," he murmured, his deep voice carrying a warmth that transcended species. "We're not like them. We understand, and perhaps they did. Humans, after all, had spent millennia turning wolves into companions, befriending horses, domesticating cats that could have easily killed them in their sleep. They carried in their DNA the memory of countless bonds formed across the predator-prey divide." The cub took a hesitant step forward. Then another. Elsa remained perfectly still, her hand extended, her breathing slow and steady. Beside her, Leo radiated a calm confidence that spoke of someone who understood danger and chose peace anyway. The cub's nose touched Elsa's palm. Its forked tongue flicked out, tasting her scent. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, with a sound that was half purr, half rumble, the Shadestalker cub pressed its massive head against Elsa's chest and began to nuzzle the Krellian's. Collective gasp was audible even through the chamber walls. Leo couldn't help but smile as Elsa wrapped her arms around the cub, her fingers finding the spot behind its neck ridge that made it rumble with contentment. The creature that had killed 3 handlers, the apex predator's offspring, was melting like butter under human affection. "There you go," Elsa whispered, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "You just needed someone to understand, didn't you?" Within minutes, the cub was curled in Elsa's lap, its dangerous head resting against her shoulder, its lethal claws carefully retracted. It was, by every definition, napping in her arms. Leo sat beside them, one hand gently stroking the cub's scaled back, marveling at the absurdity and beauty of the moment. "Command is never going to believe this," he said softly. Zixthor stared through the glass, his 4 eyes wide with something between horror and revelation. His carefully planned demonstration had backfired spectacularly. The humans hadn't cowered. They hadn't fled. They had turned the galaxy's nightmare into a sleeping kitten. "How?" one of the Krellian scientists whispered. "How did they do that?" Zixthor had no answer. But as he watched Elsa gently rock the sleeping predator cub while Leo kept protective watch beside them, he began to understand why humans were so dangerous. It wasn't their weapons or their technology, or even their death world origins. It was their inexplicable ability to look at something deadly and see something worth loving. The Galactic Council would need to revise their assessment. Humans weren't just survivors. They were something far more terrifying. They were a species that could turn enemies into family, and perhaps, Zixthor thought as the cub's contented purring filled the chamber, that made them the most formidable species in the galaxy after all.